This is a video to show how to properly measure anything using a dial caliper. So dial caliper has the inside diameter jaws, outside diameter jaws, the scale right here. This caliper is in inches. Big numbers are inches, so one here would be 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. A small number is going to be your first decimal, so 1.1, 1.2, so on and so forth. Second and third decimal on the dial. The dial is always going to tell you the accuracy of the caliper. In this case, each space here is 1,000 of an inch, 0.001. This is a Mitutoyo caliper, Japanese brand made in Brazil. And this here is the locking nut, the locking screw. So basically when you lock this screw, once this is locked right here, you can't really move the dial anywhere back and forth. It only takes a quarter of a turn to unlock it and lock it. Okay, you don't have to go crazy in this thing. I've seen many people just completely removing the screw here. You don't really need to do this. As soon as you feel it's tight, it's already locked. You don't need to do anything else. A little bit loose, it's unlocked. You can move it back and forth. This one here, this is the bezel nut, and this screw is for locking the dial. So when you close your caliper, this is the very first thing you need to do when you're measuring. When you close it, this should be lining up at 0. So the needle right here should be lining up at 0. If it's not, you undo this screw right here, then the dial is unlocked. Then you can adjust it to 0. Once it's adjusted at 0, you lock the dial. Once it's locked, you can't move it anymore. And then you're ready to start measuring, okay? Whenever you want to measure something, I have this deal here. Make sure you're always using the center of the jaws. Try not to use the tip of the jaws. You're always going to get a better measurement if you're using the center of the jaws. So you open up the caliper, you close it on the part that you want to measure. Make sure the center of the jaws are hitting the sides, not the tip like this, but the center. And in this case, we have 3 inches, right? So the big number is your inch number. And then you have 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. So we're between 3.3 and 3.4 of an inch. So first decimal is the 0.3 right there, so 300 thousandths of an inch, so 3.3 plus 23 thousandths of an inch right here on the dial, second and third decimal. So 3.3, 23, and that's your final measurement. This would be for using the outside jaws, right? So the outside measurement jaws, external measurements. For the internal measurements, you can use the internal jaws right here. Same idea, try to not use it right on the tip, try to use it on the center of the jaws, but make sure you never go in this portion here, because when you close the caliper, it's lining up where the jaws hit each other. So make sure you always measure from these points here, never from the internal portion of it, okay? So when you slide it in inside your measurement, in your internal measurement, we would have in this case 1 inch plus 0.3 of an inch plus 0.004. Let's not forget that this is each increment, each space there is 1,000 of an inch, 0.001. So in this case we have 1 inch, 1.304. It's not 1.340 because each space right here is 0.001 of an inch. So your total measurement in this case would be 1 inch plus 0.3, 1.304, 1.304. That's your final measurement. If you were right here, for example, in this case we would have 1.3 or 1.2. it's 1.2 because we haven't passed the 0 yet. So we want to make sure we count whatever is before the 0. So you would have 1.296. So that's your final measurement right here, 1.296. If you were right here, it would be 1.300 right on the dot. So make sure you always notice where the needles is located here. If it's over the 0 or before the 0. If it's before the 0, the number you're seeing here is not going to be your first decimal. It's going to be the number right before it. In this case, it would be, let's say, right here, it would be 1.2 something. In this case here, 1.3 something. On the caliper, you also have the height gauge. So let's say we wanted to measure the depth of this part right here, right? You can also just drop the caliper down like this. So you notice the tip here when it's at 0. So let me open up my image here for you a little bit. So when it's at 0, there's nothing pointing out right here. But when we open it up, it sticks out here. So that's how you would measure the height, for example. So you make sure your part's nice and flush, then you drop it on the caliper, and then you can check the depth of your part. So this would be, in this case right here, 0.282 or 0.283 in depth. Okay, and that's basically how you use a dial caliper. There's no trick, it's just getting used to it. That's a matter of getting used to it. So just to recap, make sure you always check the first big number. So this will be your inch number, 1, 2, 3 inches. First decimal will be the small number. So in this case, you would have 3.1 something. So somewhere between 0.1 and 0.2. So 3.170 in this case. And that's basically it. This also helps a lot. This little, the clamp screw here, it helps a lot to go smooth when you need to take measurements smoothly. Okay. If you have any questions, leave any questions in the comments. I'll make sure I answer all the questions. Subscribe to the channel, give your like, and thank you for watching.